Now on HTV, live coverage of the 1998 Austrian Grand Prix.
There's a young gun up front for the Austrian Grand Prix. The Italian Giancarlo Fisichella in the Benetton, on pole for the first time.
It's possible to do a very good result. I would like to get on the podium, and why not, if it's possible, to win a race.
The A1 ring at Spielberg, awash for qualifying yesterday. Today, a total contrast. Dry at the moment and very humid for the 10th race of the Formula One season. Good afternoon. We've got back-to-back races over the next 7 days. The Austrian Grand Prix coming right up. Next Sunday, it's the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. And with Mika Häkkinen leading Michael Schumacher by just 2 points, it really is a crucial stage of the season. It's a very strange-looking grid as well, on the back of a soaking but totally compelling qualifying hour.
The scene was all set for a McLaren domination, but heavy rain minutes before the start turned the Austrian qualifying session into a lottery. Still, it was lovely weather for goats, and those of a lyrical nature.
The hills are alive with the sound of rainfall here in Austria.
Nobody ventured out for the first half an hour. Damon Hill was the first man to try his luck, albeit gingerly. The treacherous conditions caught out even the best. World champion Jacques Villeneuve came a cropper, as did Giancarlo Fisichella, but the young Italian was to bounce back. The conditions seemed just right for Rainmeister Michael Schumacher, and he duly took an early pole, over a second quicker than the rest of the field. But when the sun finally came out, a dry line emerged, and the final minutes of the session were all action.
This could be the strangest looking grid that we've seen for a long, long time. And Jean Alesi is going faster again. Yes, he's in pole position. 13 seconds to go, and there is the pole position man, Jean Alesi. Amazing. The session is now finished, except for the laps that they are on.
And there's still a lot more action to happen in this last minute and a half. And Michael Schumacher up to P3. Schumacher, second row of the grid. He will not start from the front row. So Frentzen making it up to 5th. I think the two McLarens could make something of this last lap. Häkkinen's on a good lap. And last corner for him, he's not going to get caught up in that traffic. And just behind him is David Coulthard, also on a good lap. And Häkkinen goes 3rd. Häkkinen made it work. Coulthard obviously had some kind of...
Fisichella's in pole position. Giancarlo Fisichella in the closing seconds of the qualifying session goes ahead of Jean Alesi by an incredible 7/10 of a second as the conditions improve.
It was Fisichella's lucky day, his first ever pole position. But the last lap lottery was a washout for Damon Hill. He gambled but lost and was furious to wind up 15th. 1 place behind David Coulthard, who had another disappointing qualifying session.
At the beginning there was a lot of water, and for us with Bridgestone tires was very, very difficult. There was aquaplaning everywhere. But at the end the car was much better, and I did a very good job, especially in the last lap when I did my first pole in Formula One.
It's fantastic, especially for the team. I mean, after the problems we had in Silverstone, it was extremely important to get a good result as soon as possible. And we were not expecting, obviously, to be in the first row like that. I'm really pleased for everybody.
So it's a very unusual grid. Fisichello's first pole ever, Benetton's first of 98, the fast starting Alesi next to him in the Sauber. Then the championship contenders, Hakkinen and Schumacher. Barrichello not winning the lottery, but fifth super for the Stewarts. The Arrows delighted to have Salo in the top six. Frentzen and Irvine, row 4. Ralf Schumacher, ninth, then Panis. Villeneuve penalised by his spin next to Verstappen. Pedro Diniz and David Coulthard, 14th, worst of the year by a long way. Damon Hill's early gamble failing. Trulli led for a long time last year. Wirtz way back on home ground. Johnny Herbert 18th with only the Minardis and the Tyrrells behind him.
And welcome to the ITV studio. No aqua planning today. Very hot indeed. 25 degrees, close to the 80s in Old Money. Right, Tony Jardine, what do you make of the grid? The strangest one we've seen for a very long time.
Oh, it's great though, isn't it? I mean, Fisichella is first ever pole position. You had to be out there as the flag was dropping, and that's why Damon Hill was so upset. You know, he'd used up all his laps, he wasn't out there, didn't make it. And Alesi as well, who's done such lightning starts recently. I remember at British Grand Prix, he came through from 8th, he got 4th by the end of the first corner. So it's going to be great. But the World Championship battle is right behind them, and effectively they are blocked in.
We've seen Giancarlo Fisichella crumble under pressure in the past. Remember Monaco last year. Can he hold off the threat of the big two behind him?
I'm not so sure at the moment. He had problems with his car in the dry this morning with the understeer as well. But if you look on the other side of the grid, there's Alesi, right behind him is Schumacher. And apparently James Allen's been digging deep this morning, found out that Peter Sauber and Jean Todt of Ferrari had dinner last night. So I wonder if they were talking about any movement on the front of the grid.
Collusion in the world of Formula One's surely not.
Collusion, Jim, not as we know it. Tactics, Jim.
OK, well, they don't use this A1 ring too often. One good reason, it's covered by snow for most of the winter, and conditions today are going to be very, very different to that skid pan you've just seen yesterday. Right, let's join Martin Brundle, ready to go on a flying lap in the dry with pole sitter Giancarlo Fisichella.
The A1 ring in Austria, just under 2.7 miles, a shadow of its former self, but it gave us a great race last year and a great qualifying session yesterday. Let's join Giancarlo Fisichella in his Benetton, the pole sitter, on one of his practice laps. It's a short pit straight, build up to 180 miles an hour. Notice how the track goes uphill, brake very, very late, come down to second gear, just 45 miles an hour. The curb is rough on the exit, some concrete, but a good exit there, and we're heading up towards turn 2. And it's a sweeping left-hander on the way in at 180 miles an hour as you brake very hard. Watch his left hand flick down the gearbox. A lot of steering lock, just 45 miles an hour. Now up through the gearbox again to 6th gear. We'll be doing 180 miles an hour before we get to turn 3, the Gosser curve. But you're braking downhill this time, so you brake a little bit earlier. Again, a lot of lock. Watch for the traffic. He makes a nice move around the outside, and we're heading towards the Niki Lauda curve, 160 miles an hour, down 2 gears, bring it down to about 95. A short straight to the Gerhard Berger curve, 140 on the way in, let the speed bleed off to 110, running wide over the curb, hard on the throttle now. Stefan Johansson ran over a deer here many years ago in his Ferrari. The last 2 corners are tough. The Jochen Rindt curve, arrive at 180, down to 125, up to 140, down again to 95, over this curve, let the car run wide, hard on the power, drive towards the line. 71 laps around this place is very tough.
Thank you, Martin. We'll watch out for those deer. Well, as Martin said, we all enjoyed a terrific race here last year when Formula One returned to Austria after an absence of something like 10 years. It was the weekend that Damon Hill announced he was joining Jordan. Jarno Trulli had a terrific drive in the Prost, but the big winner was Jacques Villeneuve.
Good one for Villeneuve. Trulli is coming up well. They all get away well.
Hakkinen is on the side of the track. He did not pass the start-finish line. Mika Hakkinen appears to be out of the race. Trulli is leading.
Big one. John Alesi. John Alesi's obviously had a coming together.
That was Schumacher putting a move on Frentzen. Now the Williams team will be livid with that.
And we have sensational news that Michael Schumacher is being given a 10-second penalty for overtaking under the yellow flag. Now that is going to ruin his race. Bang! That's Nakano.
That's Trulli blown.
That's Trulli! My goodness! What a disastrous race for Prost, for Trulli, for Nakano. Schumacher goes through. No, no, no! I thought he was going to take Rubens Barrichello's
Barrichello's off.
from the back. And Barrichello goes off. This is lap 17.
There he goes.
And Schumacher
He made
goes
it.
through. Yes, Schumacher. Oh, hard luck, Damon. And Jacques Villeneuve wins in Austria. Coulthard second. Frentzen is in third position. Williams first and third.
Great race. Same again will do fine. Tony, they call this circuit a bit green. What do they mean by that?
They can't use it for testing. It's snow covering the thing right through till April, so it's hardly ever used, so there's not much rubber down on the track. And what rubber there was that they put down has all been washed away in all these incredible thunderstorms that we've had here. So they're basically starting again from scratch. It's very difficult because this track is slippery, it is dirty, it's got some really bad bumps going into turn one, adverse cameras. And the other thing you and I have been watching, we've been commenting on, is the gravel traps are not really slowing the cars down when they're going off. They're getting out of them and they're flying over them, so we've got to watch for that this afternoon.
The smaller teams like the Stewarts and the Arrows, they like this place. They think it's a level playing field here.
Yeah, it does give them a bit of a chance. Yes, there's long straights, but we thought initially when we came back to this track after 10 years it had been neutered with all these slow corners on it, but it's got lots of rise and falls. It gives the guys a chance to go through under braking, and it is a bit more of a level playing field. Although Salo from 6th place today, you'll see him struggling a little bit in the drive.
That's right. Okay, thank you, Tony. Well, they're wandering round the paddock this weekend. Some famous faces there, famous Austrian faces, the likes of Niki Lauda and Gerhard Berger, young Alexander Wurz. He'll be carrying the home crowd support this weekend. Let's wander down memory lane now, shall we? With Murray Walker.
Austria may not be one of the world's great motor racing countries, but if it's low on quantity, it's certainly high on quality. Right here is the site of one of the world's great motor racing circuits, the old Österreich ring. Today's A1 ring is a shortened and sanitized version, but it's still very good, and Austria has produced some great drivers. Jochen Rindt, Formula One's only posthumous world champion. Niki Lauda, 3 times world champion and one of the greatest of them all. Gerhard Berger, who's just retired after an outstanding 14-year career. And now, young Alexander Wurz, who shows every sign of being a potential world champion. So, when it comes to Formula One success, Austria can be proud of itself.
Absolutely, thank you, Murray. We add the name of Roland Ratzenberger to that. Roland so tragically killed on the same weekend as Ayrton Senna at Imola 4 years ago, and too often forgotten. Well, the world champion Jacques Villeneuve is having his last 7 races with Williams. Villeneuve is on his way to join the new British-American racing team next year. BAR, as they're called, have gone on record as saying they're going to win their first Grand Prix of the season. Craig Pollock's the man in charge. He's delighted with the signing.
I think I'm the happiest man in the paddock today. It wasn't easy to do. Everybody was taking for granted that he was going to come, and in reality, we were negotiating until about 2 o'clock in the morning to get him there, so it's big.
The people working there I've worked with before, and even the people I haven't worked with before are good. The atmosphere should be good in the team, and the money necessary for the team to work to go on forward is there. So engine-wise also it should be good. So I didn't see any reason to not believe in it.
Until we actually got the package put together and we were clear about the engine, there was no guarantee of getting Jacques Villeneuve. And even once we had the engine, he was being headhunted by other teams, and very, very good teams. So, I mean, he was taking a huge risk coming to us, or he is taking a huge risk coming to us, and it's up to us to make sure he's got a perfect package for next year.
Well, the team is new, but the people aren't new. The people within the team have a lot of experience in Formula One. And there's also people with new ideas, and I think that is needed.
Jacques has always been gutsy, and the move that he's made this time is a gutsy move. I'm proud of him, the fact that he's done that. I'm also proud of the way that he negotiated his contract, because it showed that he was a young man with an awful lot of intelligence and he wasn't going to give in. But the risk factor involved is huge, and he obviously has a lot of confidence in myself and the people working with me, in Adrian and Rick Gorn.
We know each other very well, so I know what to expect. And it's a business, but it's also a business of human beings. And anyway, I believe in that side. So the chemistry and the way you work with people is very important to me.
He's being paid a substantial amount of money. There's no question about it. I don't know the sums that are floating around about the paddock, but it's a great place for rumours. And when I find out how much is floating around about, I can answer the question.
£10 million, they're saying a year.
In case I'm not going to say anything.
Is it a difficult decision to leave Williams?
Oh yeah, very difficult, because Williams is a great team. This is my 3rd year with them, and
and you know, you build relationships, and it's difficult to go away from that. So when you go away from that, you have to be pretty sure that what you're going to get on the other side is going to suit you.
So Jacques Villeneuve on his way. £10 million a year might just soften the blow of leaving Williams. Let's have a chat now with his former Williams teammate Damon Hill. Damon still trying to get his first point for Jordan, and starting from 15th on the grid, that won't be easy. Martin Brundle spoke to him about jumping ship in mid-season.
Damon, we've both done it. Jacques Villeneuve's just done it. Moving to a new team when you're only halfway through the season, it gets pretty embarrassing. How do you cope with that?
Well, I suppose it is awkward. I mean, I can only speak from my own experience. Once I moved from Arrows and I came here to Jordan, and so I had to basically show up, having made a decision that I was not going to be with the Arrows team anymore, and stare the team in the face and sort of, you know, it's very easy for them to take it as an insult and take it personally, and it can be quite awkward from that point of view, from a personal point of view, because it's not actually a personal decision against any of the individuals in the team. It's just it's a long-term career decision.
It's business in a way, but what do? You walk in and pretend sort of nothing happened, really?
Yes, I mean, you try to get on, and most people actually, in my experience, people tend to regard it as, the people you work with, the engineers and the mechanics of it, is something that happens above their heads, really, and they don't really have much to say about it or can influence it, so they just get on with the jobs and everyone's pretty professional.
It's difficult for the team, though, isn't it? Because there's some talk of key people going with Jacques from Williams to BAR, and people do start looking around themselves and thinking, oh, maybe I'll have a change.
Well, this is the time of year when people are talking about all these changes right through the season, and it does make it quite unusual to actually sort of concentrate on driving for a team. You don't really want to have that aggravation of looking to sort out your following season's plan, really. But I suppose one thing you can say about Jacques is he doesn't have to do so much testing, probably, between now and the end of the season.
They won't have him in the car a day. They don't want him to know what's going on for next year.
So he'll be able to go and ride his bicycle or whatever he wants to do.
Would you subscribe to a system where, say, between 1st of November and the middle of December was a period where you could change drivers?
Maybe it would be the sort of thing that they could have during just before Christmas. You know, we could all go into a marketplace, or
yeah, but there'd be even more clandestine meetings on the end of runways and in dark sort of hotel rooms and all that.
It is very much part of Formula One. It's part of what goes on in Formula One, and it's part of being a Formula One driver to have to live with that dimension to it.
It's a bit like sort of dumping your girlfriend and then sort of staying around for another 6 months.
Well, I've never done that. Martin.
Well, nor have I, but I can imagine.
Or dumping your boyfriend. That's probably never happened to Martin either. Now then, Tony, what about Villeneuve? A risk, a gamble, or is he guaranteed success when he goes?
A lot of people in the paddock are saying it's a huge risk, brand new team. Look what happened to Stewart's. Look what happened Arrows 3 years ago when Tom took over and he said, look, in 3 years' time, we'll be challenging for the title, and they're not. This is totally different. Adrian Reynard and Reynard racing cars are a huge operation with tremendous experience. They've won IndyCar races. You know, they're still successful at Formula 3000, Formula 3. He's been in and out of Formula 1. He knows what to expect.
But this is a game you just don't win, first off. I mean, ask Jackie Stewart, ask Tom Walkinshaw.
Yeah, correct. I think Adrian was doing that tongue-in-cheek, and he's basically trying to set a standard and saying, look, we want to start off with high expectations. He didn't actually mean, look, we're going to go out there and win, and then he's going to stick to that. He doesn't mean that at all. That's the sort of standard that his company operate. Him and Rick Gorn are two very good players in the marketplace.
You spent a fair amount of time with Damon Hill recently. He's on a 2-year contract. They're talking, him and Jordan still. Would you expect him to go?
No, I didn't expect him to stay. I mean, I actually went over there at lunchtime and caught him with his manager, with Michael Breen, and said, look, we want to say something to the British public about what is the situation. He said, I've gone on record as saying I would like to stay with Jordan. We're talking to the team, and the talks are progressing well. So that's looking good.
OK, thank you very much, Tony. It's a beautiful setting here, a lush green valley, just about the most beautiful circuit that we visit. Here's your postcard.
Well, those campsites were pretty swampy over the past couple of nights, but a beautiful day here, hot and dry, and the start of the Austrian Grand Prix just over a quarter of an hour away. You're back with us at the A1 ring. A lot of support for Austrian Alex Wurz in today's Grand Prix, due off in 15 minutes' time. A shimmering hot day. What can we expect tactically? It's a whole new ball game after the wet qualifying. James Allen has been getting the lowdown.
From a strategy point of view, this has got to be the most open race of the year. Most racetracks we go to, there's a pretty obvious choice between one stop and two stops. But here there's a whole range of different solutions. And as I speak to you, the engineers are working away, trying to figure out which is the best way to go. Calculation is based on two things, tyre wear and fuel load. The heavy rainstorms yesterday washed all the rubber off the track, so the surface will be more abrasive at the start of the race than at the end. Bridgestone runners like Giancarlo Fisichella and Mika Häkkinen may have to stop twice to preserve their tyres, while the Goodyear runners like Ferrari could do one stop if they wanted. For them, the calculation is based on fuel load. Last year, everyone did one stop, but I expect to see a range of different strategies today, with some of the front runners stopping twice, and poor qualifiers like Jacques Villeneuve making one stop and hoping for the best. Now, one thing's for sure, as more rubber goes down on the track, the tyre wear is definitely going to improve. So watch out for guys going out with a light fuel load to start with, coming in around lap 20-something, filling up with fuel, and going through to the end of the race from there.
Thank you, James. Useful information as always. Well, Arrows had an excellent qualifying led by Mika Salo. Mika Salo finishing 6th quickest. Here he is now talking to Louise Goodman.
Thanks, Jim. Mika, you've never been this high up the grid before, but when I spoke to you after the qualifying session yesterday, you seemed totally unfazed by the whole thing. How are you feeling now? You're a bit more nervous?
No, not really. It's just makes racing actually a little bit more easier to race in the front, because there's quicker cars and I can go faster also. And it's not actually true now the positions, because it was on the wet, and I was hoping for rain today, but I guess you can't have everything.
No rain around at the moment, Mika. John Alesi right up there in his Sauber, the former Benetton driver, right up there on the front row, and a very quick starter as well. Right behind him is Michael Schumacher. We're going to have a word now with a man who had a lot to do with Michael's development as a driver. He was also drove with James Hunt in the McLaren, you might remember. His name is Jochen Maas, and he's talking now to James.
That's right, Jim. Jochen Maas very involved in Schumacher's development, also very close to Mercedes-Benz, so you've got a unique perspective on today's championship showdown. Well, it's not a showdown race, but how do you see it unfolding? Häkkinen, you reckon will win this?
I think Häkkinen has the best chance for me, because I think with the tyre situation as is, and Austria is very peculiar, I think he's got the best chance. But still, I think Schumacher, with a good strategy as usual, I think they will come in second, and third maybe Irvine. The cars are very reliable. Eddie is very good at the moment in his head, and he's fast anyway, so.
You know Michael very well. I know you go to his house very often. You know his family. What's his view on the championship? He obviously is pretty confident he can win it.
He doesn't talk much about it, because he's obviously got some confidence. He knows what he can do step by step, and obviously they have to prepare more. As it is now, it's too much of luck, which plays a role, and I think he still has to work hard to win it, and he knows that, so he doesn't talk much about it.
A lot of people at home will be looking at Fisichella here on pole and Alesi alongside him and say, well, hang on, Jochen, can they not win this race? What's your view on them?
Well, absolutely right. Obviously, they also have outsider chances. Fisichella is quick. We know the car is very good. Sauber has been very quick in the past sometimes too, but not quite in the winning league. Doesn't mean he can't pull it eventually. And Alesi is a super starter, so it should be very interesting, actually. I'm very excited about that.
Nice to see you again, Jochen. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks a lot.
It is going to be very interesting indeed. Giancarlo Fisichella, first pole for him. Louise is with his mechanic.
Thanks, Jim. This is Alan Perman, Giancarlo Fisichella's race engineer. Tell me, Alan, I know Giancarlo can be a bit excitable. How's he coping with this pressure?
Very well, actually. Very well. I had to wake him up before the race, actually. He was having a sleepy, so yeah, he's very relaxed.
What about the boys? I mean, you've all been here before. You'll be able to pass on some of that experience to him and help him relax?
Yeah, to be honest, like I said, he's fine. He's just done a sensible warm-up, had a little bit of an off at the end. We've got a little bit of different breaks today. But no, he's doing a good job.
Johnny Herbert, who really sort of sacrificed himself, really, and allowed Lacey in the other Sauber to complete a quick lap, and he's way down the grid, is Johnny. Tony?
He's not a happy boy at all. In fact, it's not a happy Sauber camp apart from Alesi. Alesi said after the British Grand Prix, it's him or me after that incident between the two teammates. Johnny describes it thus: he actually got his hand caught and he spun off in front of him.
Right, let's have a chat to Damon Hill. He's got a lot to do this afternoon. He's with James.
Well, a lot of you will have woken up this morning to read in your papers that Damon Hill was having a massive go at the Jordan team after qualifying. Damon, I understand there's a bit more to the story than meets the eye, though.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty upset when I read things like that, because that's not what I said. What I said was we as a team, that is me as a driver, and the engineers, we as a team did not do the best we could. That's why we're 15th on the grid, and it's a crying shame because the car feels so good at the moment. It feels a lot better than it has done for a lot of races, and also this is a circuit that I thought we'd have trouble at, and it just felt great. This morning in the warm-up it was very good, and it feels good now.
You're obviously going to have to come up with a crafty kind of strategy from here, either a light fuel load at the start, or maybe do a one-stopper to try and get track position. But can you do much from back here, do you think?
Well, you can, if you feel confident in the car and the car is going well. So we'll have to wait and see. It's a very, very tricky place to get through traffic. We think we've done the right thing with strategy to try and tackle that problem. The other thing I could do is put a tow hitch onto the back of David Coulthard's cars right next to me there, and just let him take me along.
Not a bad plan. A lot of caravanners in this area. That might well work for you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Damon looking for a bit of a tow. Giancarlo Fisichella, the Roman, on pole for the Austrian Grand Prix. What'll this guy do, Ralf Schumacher? Well, all will be revealed in just a few minutes' time.